Even though this is the 40 marker, I have wrote this in the format of a 20 marker or even an 18 marker because there's a lot of material that can go into this answer. It has a lot of points that you can make, and even a diagram that you can get 4 marks from. Anyhow, let's look at the question. Examine the likely external cause. Okay, external cause, the keyword. The likely external cause from overfishing of mackerel. Use an appropriate diagram in your answer. So whenever you ask for external cause or external benefits or social benefit, social cause, anything such as that, and you're also asked to use a diagram, or even if you're not asked to use a diagram, always use a diagram of an externality diagram. You've got to learn how to sketch these. They're pretty simple. I'll, I'll explain to you how they're done. Anyway, external cause, first of all, I'll define. Okay, beginning with the definition. Whenever you have a keyword, define it first of all and then move on. External costs are the costs a third party has suffered from the production or consumption of mackerel. Okay, so I've not just defined it, I've also mentioned in terms of mackerel. So the cost of third party that is not involved in the transaction, for instance, not the consumer, not the producer, someone who's not consuming or producing. So this is this is a remark, okay, definition, and this is my diagram. So the diagram is pretty simple actually. Just consider what's happening first of all. There is marginal private benefit and marginal social benefit. They are equal. The private benefit the producer gets and social benefit the consumer gets are the same because the consumer is paying for the product, so and the producer is getting that revenue. So there's no benefit to extra benefit to a third party. A third party does not care if that transaction happens or not. There's no such benefit. So they are the same. Now let's look at marginal private cost. Marginal private cost goes something like this. Okay, straight line goes up because as quantity decreases, price has to increase. The private cost increases. Thing is, marginal social cost is greater than marginal private cost. Why is that? Well, because overfishing of mackerel has diminishing returns, or rather, has negative effects as more and more is supplied on the community or the economy. Because once you overfish, there's less supply for others left, there's more pollution, there is biodiversity falls and everything. So there are a lot of reasons, and I'll explain them later. But first of all, you've got to understand that the marginal social cost is greater than the marginal private cost, and by quite a wide margin. So once you have drawn these three lines, straight lines, you've got to figure out where should the equilibrium be and where should the optimal equilibrium be. The equilibrium when a market accounts for the increased social cost, the externality, to turn into a private cost. So right now the equilibrium is here. Okay, this point. This shows where the private cost is equal to private benefit. It doesn't account for the increased social cost. So the price is down there, P, and the quantity is Q. However, this is not optimal because obviously this yields a lot of social cost to the society. So therefore, the optimal equilibrium is right there, and the quantity will once you account for the social cost, the quantity will decrease and the prices will increase, as seen here. The price increases, quantity decreases, and this entire thing is your external costs. These are the costs that are imposed on the society that are not being accounted for in the equilibrium currently, but should be accounted for. This is the vertical distance between the marginal social cost and the marginal private cost, as determined by the equilibrium quantity. The quantity being sold when the market is in equilibrium. Not the social optimum equilibrium, but the actual equilibrium that does not account for the social cost. The vertical distance is the external cost. These are all the costs imposed on the society. Alright, I hope that's clear. The drawing this diagram will get you at least 4 marks if you show everything. If you show the social optimum quantity and the social optimum price and the external cost and the welfare loss. Oh, and the welfare loss. Oh yes, I did not mention that. The welfare loss is all the area inside that vertical margin drawn by the external cost and the social optimum quantity, social optimum equilibrium, and the prior equilibrium. Welfare loss shows the entire cost imposed on the society, considering the quantity, not just the external cost per unit, on not on the margin, but rather overall. Anyhow, if you show all these four things, the marginal cost, the margin social benefit, the marginal private cost, and the social benefit, and the increased price, and the decreased quantity, and the welfare loss, and the external cost, then you end up with 4 marks. So 5 marks by now. Let's move on. The diagram shows that a high amount of welfare loss exists due to the external cost arising from overfishing of mackerel. Just a restatement, so 4 marks, nothing extra. You don't have to explain this. This is a waste of time. So if you're running out of time, there's no need. I know how it feels to run out of time. I used to run out of time in these exams all the time. So there's no need to explain it. But if you have time, then it's better to, you know, elucidate on what you're trying to show in the diagram. Anyway, first point, overfishing of mackerel may lead to substantial damage. Oops. Okay. May lead to substantial damage to the food chains that depend on mackerel. Overfishing may cause the mackerel to become extinct in the future. Substantial damage first of all, extinct in the future. Future generations, hence the food chains that rely on these may incur a fall in supply of mackerel. You see, external costs. So this is all the costs that are imposed on the third party. Third party on the future generations, future generation of suppliers, future generation of customers, everything. There's a third party that are not currently involved in the transaction. And hence the prices of fall in the supply of mackerel and the prices of. So let's move on to page 2. Let me just rotate this. Okay. And hence the prices of mackerel dishes may rise along with the production cost. Because as the production cost increases, the suppliers will raise the price also. Production cost of mackerel, since it is more expensive now. Okay, this is one entire point and it has analysis. So there's 2 marks by now, just so you know. I'll move on. There may not be any stocks of mackerel left either that can raise its supply on markets and protect the food chains. May not be any stocks left either. That's another point. Nothing significant, but just a point to make sure the examiner understands the pathway I'm taking. Therefore, the food chains may face a rise in the demand for mackerel, and their revenue fall in demand for mackerel. First of all, mention that, and the revenue the revenue along with profits may fall. Profits may fall, leading to them going out of business. Unemployment may also rise as they go out of business, obviously, since the food chains may cut back on workers to lower production costs. Solid point, really solid point. The entire paragraph is solid point. It has 2 different points and they are commingled together to show as if they are a single point, but they are actually 2 points. This entire point would get you easily 5 marks, I say, for KA, just to stay on the safe side. But it could easily make it 5. It's definitely 5. 5K marks. It's got examples. It's got long mention, shorter mention. It's got the actual definition. Actual application of external cost. It's got everything. However, okay, so this is evaluation because the question is a 40 marker, 40 marker. Question is a 20 marker, and 20 markers require you to evaluate. They require you to understand the other side. However, it is not necessary that the food chains will go out of business. Okay, just an introductory statement. Nothing special here. The demand for mackerel may be price inelastic. There you go. You see, evaluation, you can always argue about price elasticity of demand. Always. And price elasticity of supply. May price elastic and the demand may not fall much following a price rise in the prices of mackerel. Demand may not fall much. I mentioned demand fall and I'm not just countering that argument. Hence, food chains may be able to match the revenue or even increase it. Or even increase it. May be able to match their revenues or even increase it. Maintain their revenues or even increase it. Moreover, the food chains may have achieved risk-bearing economies of scale. Risk-bearing economies of scale. Another term, such that the fall in mackerel supply may not inflict their total revenue much as this can sell other dishes. So they don't rely much on that. Risk-bearing economies of scale is that the business is diversified and it can sell a variety of things such that it does not rely exclusively on a single item. And that's what I'm mentioning that restaurants can do here too. Also, the food chains could import mackerel at a possibly cheaper price. Import mackerel, because mackerel is not limited only to the UK. Though this could worsen UK's current account budget. Bam. I think this may just be the best evaluation I have done so far. Anyway, thing is, it's got three different points actually, and all of them are explained. First of all, it goes on to mention that. Let me just highlight this in another color. So first of all, it mentions that food chains may not go out of business because that is the first counter of the argument I have mentioned above. Demand may price elastic, and I've explained all that what price elastic demand means. So their revenues may be increased. This is the most solid point. Two most right there. Moreover, the food chains may have achieved risk bearing economy, so that the following may cancel. This is another 2 points, both analysis and knowledge. Third point is right there. Also, the food chains could import mackerel at a possibly cheaper price, though this could worsen UK's current account. Possibly cheaper price, that is one point, and it could worsen current account measure, that is another one point, and the analysis. So all in all, this is 6 marks. 6 evaluation marks. Let's move on to the other point. Furthermore, the overfishing of mackerel may be going to waste. The overfishing may be going to waste. Overfishing by Iceland and Faroe Islands over 120,000 tons, and while the limit is 100,000 tons, more than a third of the mackerel caught by Icelandic fishing boats is fed to animals or turned into fertilizers. Okay, so I have application here, a lot of application here. The figure and mention of turning into fertilizers and being fed to animals. So that's a lot of application marks, starting from here to here. So as of now, there's 3 marks. 1 application, 1 knowledge. 2 marks actually. An analysis in there, right? So an absolute waste, and there's 2 marks. 2 KA. Okay, so third point. I haven't ended the answer yet. Moreover, 30% of the fishes caught are thrown back into the sea. Dead fishes may pollute the sea and spread illness to the sea life. Okay, now I'm explaining the other external costs. External costs to the environment and everything, to the fishes in the sea and all that. So I'm still doing my analysis and knowledge, not evaluating here. I'm just supporting my original point. 30% of the fishes caught are thrown back into the sea. This is an application. Pollute the sea and spread illness to the sea life. Okay, so this is not mentioned in the passage. This is this is not mentioned in the passage. This is something I have conjured up myself. So that something that you use your own knowledge to conjure up, guess you extra marks. Believe me, I know that personally. So that is another 2 mark. Application and analysis. However, again, counter. However, the external cost produced by the overfishing cannot be measured. There's always an issue with external costs. They cannot be measured. Okay, always use that in evaluation. Never skip it. It's a solid point. Just always mention it. Produced by the overfishing cannot be measured and might be difficult for the government to internalize the external costs. Okay, that's another point because they cannot be measured. Also, the overfishing of mackerel at least provides employment to a lot of people, and hence it may possess some external benefits. Counter, all, everything here. I've countered the argument that it doesn't have any external benefits. I've also countered the argument that external costs can be measured or anything, like, because it cannot be. So 3 marks evaluation. 3 EV. Moving on, the last one. Moreover, the effects of overfishing may only be felt in the long run. When mackerel runs out and the magnitude of overfishing is huge, 150,000 tons, can may only be felt in the long run. So there's no issue in the short run. First of all, that's my argument, and it's kind of a repetition. So I'm not gonna give it 2 marks or anything. It's just 1 mark. It's an evaluation for sure because long run, short run, 90% of the time these arguments are evaluation. Nonetheless, 4 marks for the diagram, 1 mark for the definition, 5 marks for the first passage. There's 10 marks rule, 6 marks for the evaluation there, 60 marks, and then 2 marks before, 2 marks now, 20 marks, and 4 marks there. So this could easily be 22 marker. Okay, if you go into this much detail, you can easily get 22 marks. Hell, you can even get 25 marks if you just mention another paragraph or something. So this could be an essay, a standalone essay on itself. It's about 3 pages long. And whenever you have an essay, always make sure you show a diagram and define, because that is easy 5 marks. 5 marks out of 25, they are already captured. So the rest of your paragraphs don't have to be that long, because definition and diagram don't take too long. So always try to mention that. And next video I'll show you the other 40 marker with evaluation and everything, but that won't be this long. This I was just made so that you guys could understand how the entire an entire essay can be done. Anyhow,